What it is, art snobs, I have ventured back into a comic book store. Therefore, I'm reviewing comic books. Let's see, sorry about the delay. I have been so busy and broke, and everything's been going kind of crazy the last couple months, so I haven't been buying comics as much as I have been. I've been doing my best. I've been keeping up with Daredevil, and I've been buying, let's see, the Avengers book and Miss Marvel, but that's pretty much what I've been able to collect over the last couple of months. Unfortunately, I've let a whole bunch of books drop that I normally carry, so I've got some catching up to do again. And let's see, Marvel doesn't help, considering like they change status quo every like 6 fucking months. So it's like, yeah, oh, okay, we had an event. Now let's shuffle the whole deck of our entire universe and start off with a whole bunch of new number ones. It's kind of tricky to like keep up. I know Marvel, hey, that makes sales for you, but boy, dude, I take a break for 2 months and everything's different. And then I got to figure out like what books to get and all this kind of stuff. It can be a little tricky. There was a time when you would take a break from comics for a couple of years and things would be different. Now it's just a couple months and everything's different. But I'll get into that. So I picked up 3 books this week, and I think 2 of them are from the previous week, and one of them is new for this week, so I apologize if I'm not talking about anything too fresh. I have 2 number 1s and Daredevil number 12. Daredevil 12 and Jessica Jones number 1, she's back in comic book form. And the new Champions number 1. And let's see, let's start off with Daredevil and go up to Champions. And let's see, Daredevil number 12, and that's by Charles Soule. And Ron Garney is back, who I've really loved his work on this book. And I've always been a big fan of Ron Garney since his long ago days. I guess, God, it's like 20-some years or something like that, on Captain America with Mark Waid. I've always loved his work. I've always thought he was a bit underrated, and his stuff is gorgeous in this. Because he's using mute colors. I'm not sure to this day if that's Charles Soule's idea or if that was Garney's idea, because, the mute colors have been done with the fill-in artists on the book that have, come in. I guess Garney's taking, he does an arc and takes a break. Essentially, this story arc involves this artist that he likes to call himself the Muse. The media likes to call him Vincent Van Gogh. So we'll see which name sticks. And essentially, he likes to make art out of dead people. He made a mural out of blood, and he found a bunch of Inhumans who weren't crazy about living as Inhumans. So he kills them and makes a art piece out of them, essentially posing them in everyday activities like ironing or taking a crap, kind of to, in his way, in his mind, showing that Inhumans are just like everyone else. So Daredevil and the police are after him, and the Inhumans are after him. Medusa sends her cops after them. And of course, this guy, this guy's a little more dangerous than Daredevil suspects, so he's able to get away from him. He kind of tricks Daredevil, which is an interesting way. He acts like he has this regular grenade, and it's just a flash grenade, but Daredevil couldn't tell the difference until it was too late. So yeah, Daredevil wants this guy, but the Inhumans want him, and who knows, how dead they'll make him. So he's trying to catch a deal with the Inhumans to, kind of work with him. Meanwhile, he calls into Blind Spot. Blind Spot has been working undercover with Matt Murdock, not knowing that Matt Murdock is his own mentor, Daredevil. As a law assistant or a court assistant or something like that. Anyway, he calls and goes, hey, I'm going to be late and everything's cool. And he tells him that, oh, hey, the guy you're looking for is here. So nice little cliffhanger here. I've been digging this new villain. The art's really gorgeous, and the script's pretty tight. So yeah, I like this one a lot. I'd say 5 Ram chips for this. Good work. Jessica Jones is back. So I was a big fan of Alias, and I'm happy to see that they titled this new book Jessica Jones. Although I guess they could get away with calling it Alias now. That show that was on ABC is long gone, but this does help distinguish her a little bit. I mean, how much does that suck? They came out with a comic book called Alias, and I think that year ABC started the show Alias, so it was a little confusing for some people. But anyway, Jessica Jones is back, and I'm going to guess that this has something to do with the fallout from Civil War II, because Jessica's in prison, and she's let go. For some reason, they just let her go. And she and Luke Cage are not together, and let's see, some of Luke Cage's friends, like Misty Knight, shows up to ask, where's the baby? Apparently, I'm guessing they split over the whole Civil War storyline, and she has the baby, and the baby is somewhere. So that kind of sucks for her and Luke. But time to get back to work, I guess, because she's hired. This is one of the things I like so much about the Alias book that I found interesting, is the various kind of cases she would take within the Marvel Universe that don't usually get kind of like spotlighted on in a lot of books. And a woman, if I can explain this correctly, a woman hires her because her husband wakes up one day and goes, "This is not my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful wife." Apparently he had been married to some other person and had a different life and a different job, and he suddenly wakes up with her married. And from her vantage point, they've been married for 11 years, so she doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. And he doesn't know. So they're in this weird marriage right now where they don't understand what's going on. And she's like, is he crazy? Was he living in some parallel universe and now is stuck in this one? I don't know. Can you find out? So that's when Jessica takes the job. Jessica is dubious about the whole situation, which I'm not too sure. It's like, come on, Jessica, you live in the Marvel Universe. You've seen this stuff up close. You should kind of at least take that a little more seriously. I mean, for God's sakes, she's, friends with Spider-Man, who, had, who formed an army of himself to fight bad guys in the Spider-Verse story. And then it ends with her facing off with Luke, who wants to know where his baby is. Man, it's right back to normal with this book. Loved it a lot. If you're a big fan of the Jessica Jones Alias series, or if you like the Netflix show, this feels a little more like the Netflix show, but not going too far from the original series, because we have both Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Gaydos working on the book, so it doesn't feel too much like the Netflix show. Just kind of enough to, that kind of influence back into the book. So, love this one a lot. Kind of happy to see Jessica back. I'm going to give this one 5 Ram chips. And I think I'm going to give 5 Ram chips to everything, because I thoroughly enjoyed Champions #1 by Mark Waid and Humberto Ramos. And yeah, I know, Ramos is one of those artists that people either love or hate. I tend to love him. I like his cartoony style. He does know when to dial it back for more serious books, and actually he dials it back in this one. So, the feet aren't too big in this book. Because he has kind of a nice cartoony look, and I rather enjoy that kind of fluid, energetic, cartoony look in a lot of books. I just do. I just think it looks cool. And he definitely does dial it back a bit for this. Essentially, this centers mostly on the new trio of Miss Marvel, Nova, and Miles Morales Spider-Man. let's see. It opens with the fact that Kamala is just tired of the Avengers just walking away from this huge damage, kind of without almost, as far as what she's concerned, not enough concern about the damage it leaves like neighborhoods. And the big stuff gets repaired. The well-to-do move on, but regular people and poor people, like, their lives can get destroyed by any of these awesome slugfests. And it seems like they don't care as far as she's concerned. And she's already been kind of like burned on the whole Captain Marvel thing. And Iron Man isn't there anymore. So she quits, which is amazing. Like, this is the thing she always wanted to do, and she just quits. Which prompts our best friends in the team, Miles and Nova, to go, hey, okay, we quit too. They just leave with her. That's when they decide to form their own team, and they start by recruiting the new Hulk, who is Amadeus Cho. And let's see, he's this young Korean kid, and he apparently, here's just the thing. I don't know anything about this new Hulk. Matter of fact, last week I didn't even know his name. I just know it's a new guy, and that's it. So this is my introduction to the character. And he seems to not be like a savage monster when he turns into Hulk. He's it seems like he's more like She-Hulk, where, he pretty much has his mind set, in either form. So he seems to be helping people. He's trying to help miners. That's when the guys try to help him out. And then they go to recruit the Vision's daughter, who I am not been reading that book either. So let's see, I have to get to know her. Her name is Viv, and she has the powers of the Vision as well. That's the last chapter of this issue, which is pretty thick and gets a lot done in one issue. They decide to kind of jump into this situation with this super villain clown guy who is apparently like running this human trafficking route. And there's literally a bunch of young women in this like giant crate that they're shipping off. That's when they come in, attack his forces, take them out, save the girls, although one of them has been apparently dead for a while, nearly causing Hulk to kill this guy, but they don't. And at the end, once everything is settled, there's a crowd of people watching, and they all have their phones out, which is interesting. And yeah, that's pretty much what would happen if something like superheroes would show up. Since everybody's watching, Camilla makes this interesting speech, and it's kind of an anti-speech at first, because she realizes, look, I'm not going to give you the stock old school speech about how heroes shouldn't kill. She talks about using heroes and superheroes in a new, interesting way, because there are a bunch of new heroes popping up in the Marvel universe, and we get to see little bits of them as she's speaking. And she talks about using them in a more positive way, a way of getting away from kind of the savage slugfests, where it's all about vicious fighting, and trying to use them more productively. And that kind of starts something, and people start calling them champions. And actually, she kind of like word drops, like where did she say something like that in her speech? And people start hashtagging champions, and you go, oh, okay, I guess that's her name. And of course, Champions isn't a completely brand new name. For those of you who know old school Marvel, there was a Champions group in the 70s, but it was like the weirdest fucking thing. It was the weirdest lineup of like Black Widow and Ghost Rider and Hercules, and I believe it was Iceman and Angel, and I don't know why that team didn't work. It seems like such a natural combination. So this one actually comes together really well. It's a nice way of using like an old name, that was just collecting dust and no one was touching it anyway. I really like the premise of this, and I might be jumping ship from Avengers too, because to be honest, the thing I really enjoyed the most about the new Avengers book was this trio of Miss Marvel, Miles Morales, and Nova. I think they get along really well. I think they're a good example of kind of the new faces over at Marvel, as well as the new fans that are popping up. So yeah, there's something about this grouping and this book that just strikes me like kind of 90s DC in a weird way, but still without not losing what makes Marvel cool. Marvel's still great at approaching the average person, fleshing out people and characters, and having a bit of a rebellious streak. That's still here, but DC's optimism and legacy are here too. So I find this an interesting book, and I have high hopes for it. So if you haven't picked this up, maybe you should give it a shot. It's #1 of Champions, and I'm going to give this 5 Ram Chips. This is probably my favorite book of the week. So I'll be talking to you guys later, and hopefully I'll have more comic books to talk about next week. I don't know. Kind of miss talking about comics. I am done, so push the button, Lindsay.